Now at 17 minutes past 9, we're joined by the former Irish international Jack McGrath on the line. Jack, a beekeeper with Open Hive, is celebrating the partnership between Camille Thai and Open Hive. Established to protect over 100,000 native Irish honeybees, the Irish restaurant group will be using the raw honey produced by these special bees and harvested by Jack and the team at Open Hive to develop a series of new dishes, including the honey crispy chicken bao, which is available now from all Camille restaurants across Ireland, Northern Ireland and the UK. Jack, good morning.
Hello.
What a start, Jack.
Talk to me about the beekeeping. This is something else. I mean, was this this start over COVID, or how did you get involved in the beekeeping?
Yeah, I suppose it was something I'd always been interested in through the years, but like I never saw an opportunity to actually get involved because it was just so time consuming. And then, as you said, when COVID came along, it sort of just the opportunity came up to come out to somebody local, a local beekeeper out here in Greystones, and basically that's when I met Kyle, who is the other partner in Open Hive, and he basically showed me the ropes, and it's from there it's kind of went. And then the other fella who's involved is Mark Early, so between the three of us we've kind of pushed it on from there.
I'm sure you have the suit and the visor and all that crack. Like, I've read that it's bee proof, so it keeps out the bees, but doesn't necessarily stop the stings. That must be something that takes time to get used to.
Yeah, it does. I suppose it's like anything. It's like hits in rugby. You just get used to it, but it just stops them getting in. But you can get stung, so we just kind of wear a double layer underneath the gear, and yeah, you're usually grand. You know, it's the time of year we're checking them. A lot of the time they're fairly docile because of the heat, but sometimes they get a bit ratty, and you do pick up a few stings.
Jack may or may not be a Withnail and I fan, but is like Uncle Monty. He's an unbelievable character. So he's on about flowers, and he says flowers are essentially tarts, prostitutes for the bees, right? So it's one of these amazing lines. But Jack, if there are no bees, there are no humans.
Well, that's it. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and you know, the thing I like about it is you're learning the whole time. Every time you go up there, there's so much more to them just producing honey. So that is a huge aspect of what we try and do in Open Hive is the education around that as well, because a lot of people are scared of bees and they don't know the difference between a bumblebee and a bee that actually produces honey. So it's great, and you know, it's a nice outlet for me with everything that's gone on mentally on the pitch and off the pitch. So it's just a nice kind of escape for me as much as anything, as an enjoyment.
For your own game now, Jack, I mean, I know you're a free agent after leaving Ulster. You've been pushing on Instagram as well. Everyone can kind of see the work you've been putting in as a free agent as well. Not easily done. You've had a double hip resurfacing operation, so like, talk us through that, because that process must be arduous, and then to try and recover from that. I mean, I think I've seen you talking before about wanting to become the first person in elite sports to come back and play elite sports after a double hip resurfacing operation. That must be tough.
Yeah, it is. But I suppose the thing is now I'm over the initial two surgeries, so I'm on the way back to getting playing. It's just the initial, probably getting the first one done and getting back from that was quite tough, because it was quite tough, but I knew I could do it because I'm actually quite friendly with Sean O'Brien, and he had it done, and I was liaising with him quite a lot through it, and when I saw him getting back, I knew that I could get back. So it was fine getting back, but then I suppose over time we realised that my left side was, when I got back playing, my right side was absolutely perfect, but it was my left side, because I had been compensating for so long, had been worn away as well. And I got a few games in with Ulster, and I was kind of getting my rhythm back, and then like a maul collapsed in a game, and it was from then I was pretty goosed, and it kind of came to the realization that we had to get the second one done. which was a bit of a kick in the teeth, and everything that went on kind of with contractually as well. But you know, it's funny, things happen for a reason, and being able to be home for, like, we just had a little girl there 2 weeks ago. So if I was in Belfast, I wouldn't have actually been able to be around for a lot of the pregnancy and the birth. So it's funny how stuff like that happens. But yeah, like, it's obviously it's difficult, but the carrot for me is to be the first person. Like, there are people who have one hip done, but the carrot is definitely to be the first person to get two done, and be that at AIL level play or professional. I'm taking it bit by bit. Like, I'm not putting pressure on myself to get back as quick as I can. I just need to get everything 100% right first.
I was gonna ask you about you know, that moment where you're trying to recover from injuries. I was even watching a couple of the lads on BT Sport last night talking about the you know, injuries and in elite sport and how much it can hurt you, and I guess that the ability to bounce back depends on player to player. But as you say there, like, you're a first time dad, a new dad in recent weeks to baby Melrose. That must put things in perspective. Because
good name, actually.
Well, all of a sudden, yeah, great name.
This is Melrose's place, you know.
Yeah. But all of a sudden you have new priorities, Jack.
It is, yeah, it is. But on one side, there's priorities like that, and on the other side, you kind of have to, when they grow up, they'll be like, well, my dad did this, you know, like, and it's, I suppose I've nothing to prove to anyone kind of on the pitch. It's probably the fighter in me that wants to try and even just get back and prove that I can, you know, because, like, the hardest thing is your mind, really. Like, it's your mind is the only thing that can really stop you. And like, I'm because it's such a hard thing to do. It's that's almost the goal for me, is to try and get through it and be like, you actually can do this, and it just proves to other people that you can. Sure, if it was easy, everyone would do it. You know, like, it's a quite peculiar situation to have both done, because people do have one done, but like, there will be people in the future that will have two done, and if I can be the first to prove that I can get back, it's just, I think it's a huge thing for me personally. Yeah.
I guess like, you're on here this morning for 15 minutes or whatever, but this is a fight, like, within yourself that goes on behind closed doors, I suppose.
It is, yeah, and you know, like, what you're saying about the Instagram stuff, it's like, you kind of have to self-promote a little bit as well. You have to put yourself out there. You have to show the work you're doing. Not everything's always rosy in the garden. Like, obviously Instagram is like, you see the positive sides of getting back running or getting back lifting heavy, but like, there's shit in between the day that, like, really you're like, why am I doing this? And then you just have to kind of sometimes pull back and just try and control the controllables in your own mind and in your own situation. And for me, sometimes I put myself under time pressure to be back for a certain date, because that's the kind of environment I've been in for 12 years, like with Leinster and with Ulster. And in Ireland, like, you get injured, you're given a time frame, you get back for then. Whereas I'm in the situation now, I'm my own boss, so like, I'm managing my own rehab and everything like that. But it's that's not an excuse not to do the stuff. It's just, I need to focus on the dates that I'm getting back and just take it bit by bit, basically.
Do you worry longer term, Jack, about just, you know, the professional game and what you've I guess the hits your body is taking, how it will be long term? I'm rarely on with rugby players. It's always a concern for me when I watch the sport.
Yeah, I suppose it is, yeah. And like, I'll know when I do get back training fully and playing games, and my hope is to get back and try and play some AIL games with St Mary's, because obviously Sean Cronin, that's my club, and Sean Cronin's the head coach, and I know Sean pretty well from through the years. So I've sort of made a commitment to try and get back there, and I'll know myself after probably a year if I'm ready to go. So like the plan would be to try and get back, see if I'm good, see if I'm still enjoying it, and go from there.
Well, those, when you're talking about big hits, Jack, Andy Farrell's Irish team have a few big hits heading away on Saturday at the Aviva Stadium. A few slightly more than bee stings, I'd imagine, them Springboks coming at you. But how do you feel about the Irish team heading into the November internationals, and specifically for Saturday? Because a lot of talk about the South African front three and the bomb squad and the 6-2 split on the bench they have, and these just huge specimens of men that the Irish team are coming up against on Saturday. It's no easy task.
No, it's not, and I think against South Africa, it's always an acid test of how your pack is actually going. I think the strides that has happened in the Irish pack and in the team in the last, since Andy has taken over, is incredible. You saw it over the summer and before that. I think the way Ireland are playing, they're going to put South Africa under pressure, but I think the nuts and bolts around the scrum and the maul and the breakdown is going to be huge, because you saw South Africa pick their team early. They're putting out, they're nailing their colours to the flag, and they've put a 6-2 split, so they know it's going to be a forward battle, and it's going to be wet. So it's an interesting one.
Serious speed of that rush defence from the South Africans as well. Do you think it's going to tell us more about ourselves nearly than the South Africans? And there's the element, of course, because we're in the same World Cup pool next year, and we've spoken about it with Alan Quinlan earlier in the week. But shadow boxing, is there an element of that, do you think, Jack, heading into a game like this when you know you're in the same pool, or is it just they're separate things, and maybe treat it as just one big game to get prepared, I guess, for the World Cup this far out?
Yeah, I think it's a stepping stone. Like, I don't think Ireland have named their team as well, so it could be like they're not going to be experimental, but it could be an opportunity to drop one or two guys in, because as we know, the World Cup is a squad effort. So if they are in the group, it's a huge opportunity for him to maybe drop one or two players in. But I wouldn't be reading massively into it, because a lot changes in those kind of 6 or 8 months. So I think it's just going to be a massive physical test, and I'm actually getting to go to it, so it'll be the first time I've gone to an Irish game since I've been actually playing there. Right. So it'll be nice to be seeing it live. Yeah, it'll be nice to be seeing it live.
Flogging honey all over the shop.
yeah.
It's the team, as you said, not named, but I guess if you're to look at the Irish 15 to play the New Zealand 15 on tomorrow night, you can kind of make some guesses, like Hugo Keenan, Mac Hansen and Balakoon potentially as a back three, if you're to read into that team and the players that haven't been named. Robert Balakoon is someone who you've played with at Ulster. I mean, seriously talented player, and this game at the weekend is going to be a real litmus test for him.
Yeah, like the cat is what we call him up there. He's an absolute freak of an athlete, one of the most humble fellas you'll ever meet, and he's just willing to learn, and like he just goes about his business, got Ulster out of a lot of trouble in attack and defence. He's a smart rugby player, doesn't take himself too seriously, but he's got the X factor, and he's a guy who is definitely pushing his way to be starting consistently for Ireland.
How do you see it going, the November tests generally, and then a long-term one for you as well, Jack, like that, the hope that we can maybe progress at some distance in the World Cup? Like how do you see the next 12 months going for Irish rugby?
I think the experience that's there, I don't think we will fall into the trap of peaking too early. I think there's too many guys there that have been to too many World Cups and know. I think Andy Farrell is a top quality coach. The guys in the backroom staff with him have all gone to World Cups. I think they'll get the prep 100% right. And I think on your first question, I think it'll be a clean sweep for the November internationals, 3 wins.
Can I just ask you one final one, Jack? It just struck me when you were talking there earlier about the, Instagram and having to put yourself out there, and also being fully aware that Instagram is a semi-fake world in many ways, and I guess people can take it with a pinch of salt what we all put forward in social media. I know you've done a lot of great work with Pieta House, and you've spoken about your own family story as well, eloquently at times. That's an important thing. It must be for dressing rooms at the minute, especially with young players, to be aware of things like social media and social media abuse and even abuse from the terraces, and not just in rugby. Generally speaking, for young people to look after themselves and the mental side of things.
I think so, yeah, and I think it's way more open forum now for people to talk to each other, and there's things in place now around clubs. There are people involved in the clubs that you can go and speak to at any stage about it, about anything that's going on. And like for me as a player, as a senior player, I would have always tried to speak to younger guys, and just like there was never a hierarchy. So even if they did want to say something to me that they might have felt was stupid, they could say it, and I wouldn't say it to anyone. So no, I definitely think the way the world is now, definitely rugby is changing as a landscape. You don't have to be just this macho fella that doesn't have any feelings. Like, you're not a robot. So I think when guys are actually open about how they feel and their emotions and stuff like that, you actually get the best out of them as a player because they can express themselves.
Absolutely. Here. Listen, Jack, you've been great with your time. Really appreciate you chatting to us. Enjoy the beekeeping, and most of all, enjoy the match on Saturday as well.
Cheers, lads.
Great stuff. Jack McGrath there, of course, the former Leinster, Ulster, Ireland, Lions loosehead prop, and as he said, he's a free agent, but working really, really hard to recover from those hip operations and to get back to playing the game he loves.